what the most insane trade proposal in Maple Leafs history is actually the smartest move Brad Treliving could make right now. Let me ask you something that's been keeping Leafs Nation awake at night. You've got Matthew KNIES, a 23-year-old power forward who's scoring at an elite pace, beloved by the fan base, locked up for 6 years at a reasonable cap hit. He's everything you want in a modern NHL winger. And yet, there's this gnawing feeling, isn't there? That no matter how many 30-goal scorers you stack on the forward lines, this team will never, ever win a Stanley Cup without a true number one defenseman. Not a good one. Not a solid one. A generational one. Enter Quinn Hughes. And enter the most controversial trade proposal to hit Toronto since the Kessel deal. This isn't coming from some random Twitter account or a desperate fan forum at 3 in the morning. This is Bleacher Report, analyzed and dissected by the hockey writers this week. And it's got everyone from Bay Street to Barrie losing their minds. The proposal? Matthew KNIES, straight up 1-for-1 for Quinn Hughes. No sweeteners. No draft picks. Just 2 elite players, similar cap hits, swapping jerseys. Your first reaction is probably the same as mine was. Absolutely not. You don't trade a 23-year-old power forward who's on pace for 40 goals. You don't trade the future for the present when you've already mortgaged so much of that future. You don't break the hearts of fans who've already watched too many homegrown talents leave town. But here's where it gets interesting. And here's where the math starts to make your head spin in ways you didn't expect. Let's talk about what Matthew KNIES has become, because this isn't about potential anymore. Through 22 games this season, KNIES has put up 26 points. That's not a hot streak, that's a statement. He's playing with physicality, skill, and hockey IQ that makes you believe he could be a perennial 35-goal, 70-point player for the next decade. His contract, signed in July 2025, pays him $7.75 million per year through 2031. That's not just team-friendly. That's borderline theft in today's market. He's the exact type of player every contending team dreams of having. The kind of asset that makes other GMs weep into their spreadsheets. But here's the thing about assets. They're only valuable if they help you win the ultimate prize. And for all of KNIES' brilliance, for all his goals and hits and highlight reel plays, he doesn't solve the Maple Leafs' fundamental problem. Toronto has never, in the Auston Matthews era, had a defenseman who can truly control a hockey game from the blue line. Morgan really is a wonderful player, a heart and soul guy, but he's not that. Jake McCabe and Chris Tanev are solid, reliable, exactly what you want in your top 4, but they're not that either. The Leafs have been trying to win a Stanley Cup with a defense core that will be the 3rd or 4th best in their own division, let alone the conference. Quinn Hughes is that. He's not just a number 1 defenseman. He's a Norris Trophy caliber, game-breaking, offense-generating machine who plays 25 minutes a night and makes everyone around him better. This season, he's at 22 points in 22 games, quarterbacking a Canucks team that's trying to figure out its identity. He skates like the wind, sees the ice like a grandmaster sees a chessboard, and his ability to transition the puck from defense to offense is virtually unmatched in today's NHL. When you watch Quinn Hughes play, you're not watching a defenseman. You're watching a conductor leading an orchestra, and every pass is a perfectly timed note. Now here's where proposal gets truly fascinating, and where Hannah Stewart's article from Bleacher Report starts to make uncomfortable sense. The cap hits are almost identical. KNIES at 7.75, Hughes at 7.85. That's a difference of $100,000. Basically a rounding error in NHL accounting. From a pure salary cap perspective, this trade is perfectly clean. No retention, no complicated three-team gymnastics, no creative accounting required. It's the kind of swap that, on paper, works immediately for both teams. But why would Vancouver ever do this? That's the question that makes this whole thing seem like fantasy, right? You don't trade a 25-year-old Norris Trophy winner for a winger, no matter how good that winger is. Except, and this is a critical piece that makes this entire scenario plausible, Vancouver is terrified. They're terrified because Quinn Hughes' contract expires in 2027, and his brothers Jack and Luke play in New Jersey, and the whispers have already started about a family reunion. The Canucks have seen this movie before. They've watched star players leave in free agency, and they know that if Quinn decides he wants to play with his brothers, there's absolutely nothing they can do to stop him. So Vancouver faces a choice. Do they ride it out, hope they can convince Hughes to stay, and risk losing him for nothing in 2 years? Or do they make the painful, pragmatic decision to trade him now, while his value is at its absolute peak, for a player who could be their franchise cornerstone for the next decade? Matthew KNIES isn't just a consolation prize in that scenario. He's a 23-year-old power forward, signed long-term, who's already producing at a star level and fits perfectly with Elias Pettersson and Brock Boeser. For Vancouver, it's the ultimate insurance policy. Jesse Corville-Lynch, writing for the Hockey Writers. Put bluntly, given how talented Matthew KNIES is, his youth, and their cap hits being quite close, I can see GM Jim Rutherford agreeing to make this trade 1-for-1 rather than doing the math to bring in extra assets. That's not a throwaway line. That's a recognition that in the right circumstances, with the right fears motivating both sides, the impossible becomes possible. But let's be honest, because we need to be honest about what a realistic trade would actually look like. The 1-for-1 swap is fun to debate. It makes for great radio and even better arguments at the bar. But the actual package will be significantly more expensive. If Brad Treliving picks up the phone and says he wants Quinn Hughes, Jim Rutherford is going to ask the moon, the stars, and a few planets we haven't discovered yet. The realistic package, as outlined in the analysis, would look something like this. Matthew KNIES as the centerpiece, obviously. Then you add Ben Danford, Toronto's first-round pick from 2024, a defensive prospect with legitimate top-pairing upside. Nick Robertson goes in to add more young forward depth. And then the draft picks start flying. A first-rounder in 2028, a second-rounder in 2027, another second-rounder in 2029. That's not a trade package. That's a complete organizational ransacking. That's Brad Treliving looking at the present roster, looking at the championship window, and deciding that 2 years of Quinn Hughes are worth more than 6 years of Matthew KNIES plus all that future potential. Is he right? That's the billion-dollar question, and it's the one that's going to haunt Leafs fans for weeks. On one hand, you're trading away a beloved young star, a player who could score 400 goals in a Maple Leafs uniform, a guy who represents everything good about patient development and smart drafting. You're also gutting your prospect pool and your draft capital, leaving yourself vulnerable if injuries hit or if the championship run doesn't materialize. It's a massive risk, the kind that gets GMs fired if it goes wrong. On the other hand, you're getting Quinn Hughes. You're getting a defenseman who would instantly become the best player at his position in franchise history since Board Salming. You're getting someone who can play 25 minutes a night in all situations, who can run your power play, who can shut down the other team's best players, who can create offense out of nothing. Imagine Quinn Hughes starting the breakout to Auston Matthews and William Nylander. Imagine the speed, the precision, the absolute terror that would strike into opposing teams. The Maple Leafs transition game, would go from good to historically elite overnight. And here's the thing about championship windows. They don't stay open forever. Auston Matthews is 28 years old. William Nylander is 29. John Tavares is in the twilight of his career. This isn't a team that can afford to wait for prospect to develop or for draft picks to turn into players. This is a team that needs to win now. And now means the next 2 seasons while the core is still in its prime. Quinn Hughes gives you the best possible chance to do that. He's not a maybe, he's not a projection. He's a proven elite, game-changing defenseman who's already done it at the highest level. The contract situation adds another layer of complexity. Hughes is signed through 2027, which means Toronto would get 2 guaranteed playoff runs with him. After that, he becomes a free agent, and yes, there's a real risk he leaves to join his brothers in New Jersey. But here's the counter-argument. 2 years of Quinn Hughes might be worth more than 10 years of good but not great defense. If the Leafs win the Stanley Cup in 2026 or 2027 with Hughes quarterback in the blue line, does anyone in Toronto care that he left afterward? Championships justify everything. And this fan base has been waiting since 1967 for just one. Let's also talk about what Quinn Hughes would do to the Maple Leafs power play, because this is where the impact will be most immediate and most devastating for opponents. Right now, Toronto's power play is good. It's been good for years, but it's also predictable. Teams know that Matthews is getting a shot. They know Nylander is going to work the half wall, and they can game plan accordingly. Add Quinn Hughes to that unit, and suddenly you've got a quarterback who can distribute the puck from the point with surgical precision, who can walk the blue line and create shooting lanes, who can jump into the rush and create odd man situations. The Leafs' power play wouldn't just be good, it would be historically unstoppable. Defensively, the impact would be just as profound. Hughes isn't just an offensive dynamo. He's a complete player who can shut down top lines when needed. Pair him with Jake McCabe or Chris Tanev, and you got a shutdown pairing that can match up against anyone in the league. More importantly, you've got a defenseman who can get the puck out of the defensive zone cleanly and quickly, which has been Toronto's Achilles heel in playoff series after playoff series. How many times have we watched the Leafs get hemmed in their own zone, unable to clear, unable to change, slowly bleeding momentum until the other team scores? Quinn Hughes solves that problem immediately, but we can't ignore the emotional cost of this trade, and this is where it gets really difficult for Leafs fans. Matthew KNIES isn't just a good player, he's a symbol. He's a homegrown talent. The guy who came up through the system, who fought for his spot, who earned the respect of his teammates and the love of the fan base. He's the kind of player you build around, the kind of player you retire a jersey for. Trading him would hurt, and it would hurt in a way that's different from trading a mercenary or a rental. This would be trading away a piece of the team's soul.